Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today what we're going to talk about is HGH side effects and how to actually avoid them or at least mitigate them. So obviously I want to start off by telling you I am not a doctor. I am not telling you to use any of the things that I talk about or anything of the sort. All I'm doing is passing along information for your entertainment purposes only on things that I've gathered over the years. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. So that being said, let's move on to the video. Now, like I said, what we're going to talk about is HGH side effects and ways to avoid them and or mitigate them. You're going to get information about like common, rare, and also mythical side effects of HGH and different methods that I know of to reduce them or get rid of them whatsoever. So first and obvious, I think that most people know is water retention. You see that on forums, articles, people having problems with that constantly. That's generally one of the first things that you hear about with HGH in terms of side effects, especially in the short term. What happens is after a few days of using HGH, your body can start to retain water, especially in your fingers, your toes, as well as your face. And it can be uncomfortable, but it's also a good sign in the way that it's telling you that your HGH is actually legit, more than likely. Now, there's several ways to avoid fluid retention, but at first, you need to understand the mechanism on why growth hormone even retains water in the first place. So the main three factors that regulate the amount of water in the body are vasopressin, ANP, and the number of sodium ions. All right. Now, ANP and vasopressin, they perform different functions. ANP reduces your number of sodium ions in your body and water, but vasopressin actually induces their retention. So when you take HGH, the balance of these substances breaks and vasopressin starts to retain fluid. So how do you avoid it? Well, one thing that I always talk about, that I tell everybody first and foremost, is limiting your sodium intake. All right? The general daily amount that you're supposed to take in is 2,300 milligrams a day. Most people take in a lot more than that. You know, I watch everything that I do, but I'm just talking general public out there taking far more than they're supposed to. And you have to balance your sodium and potassium levels. You're supposed to be getting 4,700 milligrams of potassium per day. Most people are nowhere near that. So you've got to keep these in balance. You've got to get that potassium level up, all right, and keep your sodium level to 2,300 or below. Obviously, you don't eliminate sodium completely. You've got to have some, but you've got to control it, okay? Keep it under control. Also, you can divide your daily amount of growth hormone into 2 to 3 injections. The hardest side effects are actually noticed when scientists inject HGH 3 times a week. Under this protocol, HGH gets to the body in extremely high doses, and what it does is it disrupts the balance of ANP and vasopressin. So to avoid adverse side effects of HGH, just try to follow natural biorhythms of growth hormone secretion, which is 2 to 3 times per day. Drink less alcohol or just don't drink at all, which you shouldn't be anyway if you're on cycle or using something like this because it retains water. Drink more water. Now, vasopressin is actually sensitive to water intake. So if you drink too little amount of water, which is obviously not good anyway, the body tries to retain it. And then, you know, natural, and let me stress that word, natural diuretics. One of my favorites is dandelion root. There's also some good diuretic teas out there that are natural. I'm not telling you that you should go use hardcore diuretics. I am firmly against those, okay? If water retention makes you uncomfortable, you can have drinks like caffeine, for example, coffee, tea. These are natural diuretics. My favorite is dandelion root, okay? Very safe, very effective. It's not going to, you know, make you lose 10 pounds of water, but it's definitely helpful. Next is carpal tunnel syndrome. This is also very common. Now, with carpal tunnel syndrome, you just have to be aware of some things. You got like finger numbness, for example, pain in your fingers and your wrist. This effect will go away after about a month into your cycle, generally. And some people don't even get it. Now, what happens? Why is this caused? It's caused by compression of the median nerve in your wrist. The median nerve is actually divided into 4 nerves that go to 4 fingers. So when it's compressed, the fingers become insensitive and you feel tingling in them. Now, the side effect of HGH is caused by water retention in your wrists and an increase in bone mass. Now, this effect actually disappears after the carpal ligament becomes a little bit wider. So, to fight carpal tunnel syndrome, what can you do? You can use multivitamins and B6 vitamins. Now, let's talk about some risks of HGH side effects. Number one would be diabetes. Okay, this is, I think, pretty well known out there, but there are probably some people that aren't aware of this. Insulin and growth hormone, what they do, they influence glucose metabolism in different ways, all right, as insulin transports sugar from blood to the cells, all right, and this decreases your blood glucose level. Now, at the same time, growth hormone makes the body use fat as energy, all right, so the sugar stays in the blood and it isn't used as energy. Now, this leads to elevated levels of sugar and excessive work of the pancreas, which tries to decrease this level. So because of HGH, the pancreas needs to work more. And what happens then? That results in the possibility of diabetes. So how do you prevent the risk of becoming diabetic? First of all, this HGH side effect is dangerous if you are genetically inclined to diabetes. So you've got to know that right off the bat. Look at your relatives, okay? Check whether they have problems with the level of glucose that they have. If they do, I tell you this strongly, you're not recommended to use growth hormone whatsoever, okay? Second, pass the blood sugar test. A normal level of blood taken from a finger is like 3.3 to 5.5, something like that. So if you have the higher level, just don't use growth hormone, all right? And don't take it for longer than 3 to 4 months. This period's relatively safe if we talk about long-term side effects of human growth hormone. You can run longer periods, but only if you know that you're not prone to certain things. You got to be careful. If you know that there's histories there or things like that, just don't do it. There's also a worry or talk of HGH and cancer. Now, cancer is one of the most discussed side effects of growth hormone. People are worried about tumor occurrence. And its development and recurrence. Now, let's talk about cancer initiation. Growth hormone can't induce cancer by itself, so that's one good thing. It was proved by P.J. Jenkins. Now, he claims that recent surveillance of children and adults that were treated with HGH has revealed no increase whatsoever in observed cancer risk. So HGH can't induce it, all right? And why is that? Well, it's because it doesn't influence defected cells that are considered to be the reasons of cancer. Now, here's the thing though. HGH can accelerate growth and development of tumors that already exist. And this happens through the mechanism of promoting the division of cells, including cancer cells. So that's something you got to be very careful of. Now, cancer recurrence. There is some recent research out there that's shown that growth hormone treatment of children with removed brain tumors doesn't show high chances of cancer recurrence that in normal circumstances. Now, also suppression of the thyroid gland. This side effect of human growth hormone occurs when doses are higher than 10 to 15 IUs per day. In this case, the thyroid gland works very hard and is probably going to need help from exogenous hormones, but nobody should be running that amount of HGH. It's just ridiculous, but that's a totally different topic. So let's talk about some mythological HGH side effects, all right? Things that people talk about that may not be true. Number one, suppression of your endogenous growth caused by the hormone. Now, the myth that injectable HGH causes suppression of the endogenous hormone is connected with the suppression effect of steroids on testosterone. But scientists haven't found long-term effects on production of your own GH. All right? Now, there was a study done that proved the secretion of HGH starts 24 to 30 hours after the last injection, and the pituitary works just as well as before HGH usage. Short-term suppression does exist. It was even researched, all right, and it's connected with somatostatin, which reacts with the level of IGF-1. So, somatostatin blocks HGH secretion when IGF levels are high. The level returns to a normal range 20 to 30 hours after the injection of HGH, and then the body starts to produce its own growth hormone. Let's talk quickly about HGH gut. Let's just be realistic here. Bloated bellies in bodybuilders are a complex phenomenon. It isn't just caused by HGH, okay? You've got to understand that. Growth hormone is a part of a professional anabolic cocktail which consists of steroids and insulin. In conjunction, these drugs not only give the extreme muscle mass and excessive food consumption, but they lead to growth of the stomach. All right? Growth hormone is a part of a professional anabolic cocktail, like I said. So just understand that. That alone is not going to do it. My belief is that it's really the insulin, okay? People will say it's these three, and maybe so when they're used together, but the insulin is what generally is doing it. Now, professional bodybuilders do use HGH for very long periods of time, and they take much higher doses. So amateurs who want to try growth hormone don't have to worry about the same things as bodybuilders as well. When you're in that 10 to 15 IU range, then maybe, just maybe, it is just the HGH on its own. But and I don't sit here and speculate and say, oh, so-and-so does this or that. I don't like that. That's not what I do. But the assumption would be that most, pros that are using HGH are using insulin with it, and that's causing it. Now, there is and this doesn't get talked about much, but I'm just going on things that I've looked up to add to my list of myths, because I only had a couple and I want to give a few more, but things that I've seen people say. One is problem with your libido, which I don't hear that much, but I actually found some instances of it. Now, there is a myth that HGH can provoke problems with sexual function, and it's caused by mistaken identification of growth hormone as a steroid. HGH and steroids are completely different and have different effects, and growth hormone does not influence testosterone levels and libido. Also, hair loss. There is a myth that HGH will affect your hair. That is associated with steroids and should not be associated with HGH. And in fact, HGH can accelerate collagen synthesis, which can result in better hair. Just a few rare side effects of HGH. Redness after injection is a normal immune response to growth hormone. This effect is described, if you go to several different HGH sites, you can find it. They'll talk about it and discuss it, but it's normal. And it could be connected with poor hygiene during injection as well. So just be aware of that. And this problem is rare as well, but some people will have some morning fatigue and a headache. Some people will describe that they wake up very tired or kind of feel like that hangover effect type of thing. Something that you kind of get when you take muscle relaxers and things like that, where it gives you that hangover effect. Now, that's probably caused by a low quality growth hormone, probably, which contains too much bacterial residue. But just be aware that, some people have talked about that as well. So that is all that you need to know about HGH side effects. I know this was a little bit longer video, but there's a lot to discuss, so I wanted to make sure that I got everything out there and get you all the information necessary. So that's Dylan Gemelli signing off.